Georgia comes back in the fourth quarter and beats Missouri. It was a pretty dominant second half for the Bulldogs, both on defense and offense. We're combining those two into what went right for Georgia in the fourth quarter for this Film Don't Lie feature. Thanks for watching from UGAsports.com. I'm Dayne Young. That's Brent Rollins. And Brent, it was a tale of two halves for sure. Although when you look at the stat sheet, Georgia performed very well, kind of on both sides of the ball here. Missouri just had some mistakes from Georgia's side that ended up helping them. Specifically, though, fourth quarter, we're going to take a look at what Georgia did so well to come back and get this win, and as comfortable as it could be considering the circumstances.
And tip of the cap to offensive coordinator Todd Monken, because we talked about this in the other video, looking at sort of the first half. Tendency for him when things are really struggling, I'm just going to drop back and throw the ball and put the ball in the hands of my quarterback. Let's just go distribute the ball, drop back, throw. No play action, no run game, just drop back and throw it. And in the second half, in the fourth quarter specifically, the balance came back. The entire offense came back. And I think because of it, they got the diversity back in the running game that they have. Like all that stuff came back. And you saw the offense just take over.
And I do think that there was probably some degree of Georgia has better athletes, better condition, better to handle full quarters. However, I'll tell you, Texas A&M has that too, and it's not helped them yet. So that's not always going to be the case. A lot of this comes down to scheme and execution. So
the big picture, what do we see when we look at this? You're down 10 in the fourth quarter on the road in the SEC, no matter who the opponent. Take away the Missouri part of that. No matter who the opponent, that's a tough situation. That's adversity at its most.
2nd and 10 here. They did this a lot where they played pretty tight to their formation. Did not spread the field horizontally a whole lot, at least from the formation.
This play reminded me a lot of the Tennessee drive at the end of the half last year where Stetson's like, oh, I'm going to run, and then nope, I'm going to throw. And it's just a phenomenal job of him keeping his eyes downfield. Phenomenal job of Rosemary Jackson. Just keep working to the open spot. And I talked about this in the other video. Stetson played really well based on what he was asked to do because the ball was getting put down the field consistently. And we're going to look at that in a little bit. But he played from the pocket. Now, a few throws went high. A few of the dump-offs to McIntosh were not good throws. But other than that, he missed Darnell. Should have had Darnell on a touchdown at one point in the corner, sort of corner of the end zone, closest to Georgia's bench. Other than that, and the fumble, he played really well.
Main thing that I wanted to point out here, this is not like the full house that Missouri brought a lot of the game, but you still have all this here. Plus, you have a blitzer from the corner here. And to me, what that says is watch your linebackers. If they end up biting, which they do, on Darnell Washington, and then Brock Bowers is over here, what does that open in the middle of the field? And Georgia did not attack that in the first half, whether with slants or deep shots. That's what Missouri was giving them. Georgia didn't make them pay for it until plays like this.
Yep.
And it takes Stetson Bennett stepping up into the pocket, because I was like you. I thought he was going to take off running, and he's good throwing on the run. He's good at that.
And he's gotten a lot better. It's his accuracy on the run this year, light years better than last year.
And good job by Rosemary Jackson to lay out and make sure he secured that catch.
Yep, 100%.
1st and 10 here.
This is called all day. All day. Do it all day, every game. Get this sucker the ball. Just the poor safety corner, whatever. I don't even know.
Like a bowling pin, didn't it? Like a bowling pin falling after the ball hits it.
Just think of the catch. That catch is insane. That dude puts his shoulder right in Darnell's chest, and it doesn't even faze him.
I'm going to have some fun here because I have controls. Rip.
Yep. And Darnell is instantly up off the ground, by the way. That's what I love to see from him when he takes he leaps, takes the big hits, things like that. He instantly gets up and is like loving it. Like, look at me. Now, what's amazing, by the way, is this is only the second game, count them two, Second game of his career where he's had at least 4 targets. Both against Missouri. His freshman year against Missouri, it was one of those where, hey, we're going to really try to get Darnell the ball.
Look, that's not a ton of space here. So you know what I'm going to tell you? Dude's always open.
And one of his earlier catches, the one on the sideline where he ended up, trying to leap the guy and stepped on his throat, basically. Like that one, he wasn't really open. And the ball, you just throw him open and he goes and gets it.
Do you know why he's open? Because he's head's here
6'7.5".
and this guy's head's here. And I'm dealing with pixels on a screen. This is way more dramatic, not from a top angle. This is way more dramatic on the field, where he is just a different kind of human than the rest of the people that he's playing this sport with.
And this is really the first game, and it's phenomenal to see, where Stetson just threw him the ball. Like we've seen other games where there's a little bit of tight coverage, and he tries to hit him really high. And, he ends up making Darnell stretch big time. This one, he just threw it to him. Just throwing the ball. With no A.D. Mitchell, he has to be a threat. And even just for their offense to be great, him and Bowers have to be threats. And by the way, in those 2 games against Missouri with 4 targets, 5 catches for 125 yards. Just keep doing it.
One personnel note here, because it sets up a couple of things later in this, of Bowers, Darnell. They go out on the routes here. But what you're going to see a lot of them blocking together. So let's see. I have that route wrong. This is Darnell coming up here. Bowers ends up coming this way. Deja and Edwards comes to the flat here. You're going to see this more because everything in Georgia's offense, in terms of how defenses are defending Georgia, comes down to what are these 2 guys doing and how can we try to stop it? Whether they're blocking or whether they're catching. That's Georgia's offense right now. Those 2 guys.
I mean,
everything else sets up off of that.
Yep. It's what makes them unique. It's what makes their offense different.
So we'll see that here in a couple of plays. Some successful, some not so successful.
This
Georgia
is
still
phenomenal.
trailing, 5.5 minutes to go.
This is phenomenal QB play. I mean, Stetson was actually only pressured, I think, 7 of 45 dropbacks. I thought it was way more because it felt like plays like this, where there's just a lot of things going on around him, and he's just hanging there in the pocket. Like, this is NFL level play.
Bouncing on his feet, keeping his time.
Driving the ball in the middle of the field.
And throw it to the guy that's never dropped a pass, Don Blaylock.
Couple things. One, Stetson on throws over 10 yards, 12 of 22 for 222 yards, 85.9 passing grade. And one of those was the drop that Ladd had early in the game. The other part is watch where Blaylock, go back to the catch point. This is what I was talking about in the other video with Blaylock, the subtleties of playing receiver that he is so daggone good at. Going across the middle of the field, you might get hit. Where he catches the ball at the 12. When the ball was in the air, he was at the 11 or 10.5. Ball's in the air, and he's gradually working, he's working from the 10. It's hard to see in the TV copy. You
can kind of see, but he's working back this way.
But it's subtle. It's very subtle steps, working back to the football, ensuring that he gets to it first before someone who's potentially right on his back can. Phenomenal QB play, great wide receiver play. I think you're going to see more and more of Dom in the slot when they need it.
One thing that's funny to me is how Dayne Edwards almost runs a bit too far on his check down route because he doesn't want to push the linebackers into other routes here. So watch his little stutter steps as he kind of gets into his flat. I had not noticed until I was watching. No, I'm coming back.
Oh, I'm coming back a little bit. Let me get away from these guys.
But I mean, that's not bad. Don Blaylock had a great game. And he only had 2 catches. He wasn't on the field that much. He needs to be more.
One false step.
Here's Darnell in motion. And there's Brock Bowers missing a block that this probably turns into a touchdown if he makes it.
Yeah, and it's like I said, it's one false step. He takes one quick step with his right foot as opposed to pushing off of his right foot, going first with his left to the outside shoulder of that guy. And that's enough. Now, I will say, what have we noticed from Georgia over these first 5 games. When the tight end checks up, and by the way, if I'm noticing this stuff, 100% the other team is too. If the tight end checks up, hey, we're doing counter coming back the other way, we're doing other things. If that tight end keeps moving, that ball is coming out quick. It's screened to Bowers, it's screened to Edwards. It's something instantaneously with those guys keep moving. What I would love to see is, all right, what's your layer off of that? Like, there's so many of these things that they do or that are doing highly successful and being highly efficient with. Start putting layers on it, and layers that murder teams down the field. And I think that's when you're going to see them sort of even take another level, another step up offensively.
I hear what you're saying. This particular play to me is just execution, because Ladd does his thing here, blocks his guy. And this is very well sealed right here. If Bowers just stops this guy, doesn't be the perfect block in the world. Just stop him from getting going. What you have is Dayne on the edge with Darnell and one guy.
And well, the guy on the 10-yard line, the linebacker, is the only guy that can even possibly make the play, and he's flying out there.
Yeah,
that's the only guy. He'd have to just make a phenomenal play and trip him up, that dive and trip him up, that kind of thing.
You like your odds in that situation, is what I'm saying. This was a really good play call. It was one error on it. And Brock Bowers is among Georgia's best players and one of the best players in the country. He makes mistakes too. Things like this is what we saw of why Missouri had a lead with 4 minutes and 51 seconds to go.
Yep, big picture. That is very true. And then he makes up for it.
He does.
I tell you what, though, this scared me to death live. I kind of gasped a little bit.
Personnel, we know. Big O, Bowers. Why did it scare you?
Because the guy instantly on this, I thought he read it 10 maybe with the long hair.
Mm-hmm.
I thought he was going to jump it because I knew it was a quick screen. I thought he's running through there. I thought, he's going to jump this and take it the other way.
That would, yeah.
Because I kind of was like, and then okay, took him. Once it gets to him, then I'm like, he's scoring. I'm shocked he didn't score.
Yeah, came up a yard shy on it. But.
Which, by the way, sets up I think that was the one that set up our. No, that was the earlier. The throw to Darnell was the one that set up our play of the game for this week. But this is where you take the lead.
Let's go next play. Georgia on defense here. Haven't talked a lot about defense in this video. But this was really good coverage from Tyke, and he had a good game.
Solid game. And watching him play, you can tell his movement skills and his quickness and coverage skills are elite. His size is not.
Yeah.
Previous to this, the guy basically just boxed him out, and he did it. Another earlier in that drive, or maybe later. I can't remember if it was earlier or later, but made this play here. Missed tackle early in the game where he had a one-on-one situation, and he's just diving at ankles as opposed to being physical, going through thighs. Did a much better job on Burden in the open field later. Solid game for him, but it's one where you play teams like Tennessee, they're going to they might put Tillman in the slot or Brew McCoy in the slot, who are 6'3" plus, and he's going to have to go to work.
All right, let me get on my soapbox here for a second, because Drinkwitz after the game said that they kind of called their plays here in a way because they knew they had their 3 timeouts. They wanted to try to move it quickly and try to do a 2-for-1. Like, if you don't get your first downs, that you can punt and get another possession out of this if your defense stops Georgia.
Right.
Bro, read the room. All your momentum is gone in this game. And when you've had success, it's been a balanced attack, not asking your quarterback to do too
big
much.
Plays.
And then at the end of the game, you decide, well, let's just see if we can get 10 yards each pass. You didn't do that really all game. You had some chunk plays, and you had Georgia making some errors, but you were winning the line of scrimmage. So Drinkwitz completely screwed Missouri at the end of this game from having a shot to win it.
Well, that's, to me, I look at that as, all right, I'm getting 3 yard or 3.5 yards every play. How can I get 3.5 yards every play and score with 0, 0, 0, 0 on the clock?
Because to me, don't let Georgia get that football back. Don't let Darnell Washington get back on that field. Either you're going to lose 26-22, and it's going to be your offense coming up just a little bit short, or I don't know. I thought that was a dumb explanation. And maybe
Yes.
that's one of those things that the analytics say one thing, but like, man, use your feel of the game here.
Yes, I agree.
All right. Finally, this is the main point that I wanted to make. In Georgia's must-have situations, and look, I get it. You could have punted after this. Missouri didn't have timeouts. Even then, it'd be 20 seconds left. But we saw this. It'll be in our play of the game here in just a second. In your must-have situations, what is Georgia doing? And, I mean, one, clutch for Dayne Edwards being a closer in this game.
Closing time.
I've been wondering who is taking the spot that Zamir White has occupied for a couple of years of who's closing the game. But when Georgia is trying to close it out, 3rd and 2, how are you going to get that? Well, one, this is very much reminiscent of the play of the game, but it
is the same play.
It's what I was saying earlier. Darnell, Bowers, you're going to win or you're going to lose with them. And it's going to be either catching the ball or, in this case, blocking. And Georgia feels really good about that situation because they do their jobs here, and Dayne Edwards does his job behind him. Ball game.
Yep. And so we think about the last drive. The first carry went to Milton. He had a yard, I think. The next 6 carries, 42 yards, all Edwards.
Mm-hmm.
And his shiftiness and his always fall forwardness and ability to kind of slide through tackles and get another 5 yards there because he dove forward. That ability, I think that's going to be his role. Like we're used to seeing his closing time role be because they're up 30. No, I think he's going to have that role in a 4-minute offense.
I'm just saying in the critical situations, and this happened on 2 occasions, like you said, same play. Georgia says, I don't want these guys here to determine if we get this first down. I'd rather it be these 3 here. Roseman, Darnell, Bowers. I think that tells you everything you need to know about where Todd Monken's brain is about what are Georgia's best weapons and how can you utilize them the most.
Yep. Hey, and when in doubt, by the way, when you talk about throwing to or running behind, basically your 2 best players. I'll take it. I'll live with it. And if it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. But you live with that decision 100% of the time.
Dayne Edwards, good game, man. Good game.
Really all three backs. And I like Kenny Mack to me.
Game, other than the fumble.
Yeah, and by the way, the fumble was a blessing in disguise to me. Because if you remember on the fumble, what's he doing? He's like going this way, and then he goes that way. And let me look at this. As opposed to just going straight. Like,
go, bro.
At dudes, just go straight. And the rest of the game, he ran mad and just runs straight. And he looks like a completely different back when he does that. And he was the rest of the game. And then McIntosh, one big run, another big run. And then he dump trucks the guy for 6 yards and then gets 20 after that. Like he in the fourth quarter was the catalyst for an energy standpoint for the team. So good win for all 3 backs.
The final play that we just saw is a bit of a teaser for what's about to be our play of the game, but that's in a separate video that we're doing, so people can consume these how they want to. If you like our work with Film Don't Lie, make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel, like us on Facebook if that is what you prefer over there. For Brent Rollins, I'm Dayne Young. We're going to end this broadcast. If you're watching on demand, cool. Thanks for doing that. For the people watching live, we're going to start our 3rd video of the night, and it's going to be our play of the game. It is super hyper-focused on a very similar play that you just saw, but it's super important to examine how it happened and why it happened. So we'll see you then. Thanks for watching Film Don't Lie from UGAsports.com.